We'll go ahead and read the whole chapter through once just to get the story in our minds, and then we'll go back through and take it apart. It's Judges chapter 13. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, Behold now, thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine, nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb. And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name. But he said unto me, Behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son. And now drink no wine, nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord, and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And God hearkened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah her husband was not with her. And the woman made haste, and ran, and showed her husband, and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me, that came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose, and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said unto him, Art thou the man that spake unto the woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child? And how shall we do unto him? And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread. And if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Why ask thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering, and offered it upon a rock unto the Lord. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, We shall surely die, because we have seen God. But his wife said unto him, If the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meat offering at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all these things, nor would as at this time have told us such things as these. And the woman bare a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp at Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. So the story of the miraculous birth of Samson. Normally when we think of Samson, we think of his actual life or his hair or strength, but we don't really usually focus on his birth. I've read it before, but it was kind of new to me going through it and kind of interesting. So as we get back to verse 1, let's start taking this apart a little bit. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them the Philistines 40 years. How many times over and over and over again do we read nearly that same line in the Bible about Israel? It's the same cycle over and over and over again. They're God's chosen people, yet they just don't get it. They're good for a while, and then they sin, fall for idolatry, fall away from God. So God has to raise up another country against them to bring them back into order. It just happens over and over and over again. But there's a reason I think that that's in there like that. Because it's not just Israel that lives in that cycle. Sometimes we do as individuals, don't we? We find God, we obey God for a little bit, then we get distracted by something this life has to offer that we think is better or more important, and drives us away. And then hopefully we come back to the arms of God, which are always open. He's always wanting us to come back. And we do it again and again and again. The idea is we shouldn't be caught in that cycle in the first place. Because what we've got to be careful of is knowing that eventually that cycle is going to end one way or the other. Is it going to end with us being obedient? Or is it going to end with Christ coming or our death while we're lost in that dark part of the cycle? Now, yeah, Christ came and lived and died on the cross so that we might have hope of eternal life in heaven. That was the end of the cycle of offerings. All the daily offerings, the yearly atonement offering. Christ was the ultimate offering to end that part of the cycle. But that began the new law, the new covenant with Christ. So there's still something for us to do. There's still something for us to obey. But there's still that cycle of life and sin that we can get caught up in so easily. And here Israel is again, caught up, so God raised up the Philistines against them. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, Behold now, thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Have you ever noticed how repetitive the Bible is? Does it irritate you? Does it annoy you? Shouldn't, because it's repetitive for a reason. Because God knows, as the creator of the human mind, how the human mind works. We are so forgetful or so unattentive to things that even in His Word, He's going to tell us over and over and over through history what His plan is, what we need to do. How many other miraculous births do we know of? Turn, if you would, to Genesis chapter 17. Genesis chapter 17, verses 1 and 2. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. Jump over to verse 15. And God had said unto Abraham, As for Sarah the wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I shall establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham, friend of God, father of nations, old man, way past having children, his wife especially. Is anything impossible with God? So it had already happened once before. Manoah and his wife should have known this story. They should have known, yeah, anything's possible with God. Even though I'm barren, I can still have children. And we'll get to that because they don't disregard it at all. At least not as much as Abraham does. Abraham laughs. He's like, I'm 100 years old. My wife's close to that too. Is there any way that we're going to have a son for this promise? They even took it so far as to help God. Sarah gave him his handmaid. They had Ishmael. That wasn't God's plan. And right there's a lesson in itself. Don't try to help God. God doesn't need our help. He needs our obedience and our faithfulness. And we need God's help. Because look at all the problems that caused trying to help God. God took care of it, as he always will, but he doesn't need our help. We're the ones that need his. Another example, Hannah. Hannah was barren, prayed to God, asked for a child that she would offer to God. God provided Samuel. How about Elizabeth and John the Baptist? How about even the miraculous birth of Jesus Christ, our Savior himself? Mary, the virgin, had known no man. God chose her and said, you will bear a son and you will call him Emmanuel. So all through the Bible, and it's been a while, but when I was teaching the high school class, they probably got annoyed with me saying it every time, but I said it with purpose. Everywhere you look in the Bible is connected front to back, and that connection is Jesus. It is always talking about Jesus no matter where you look. And we'll get to that a little bit more in depth here as we go. So there's all kinds of examples of miraculous births, showing that even in dark times, they're under the control of the Philistines. Everything seems hopeless. They need another judge. They need a way out. They need someone to deliver them from the Philistines. Well, certainly it can't come from Manoah and his wife. She can't have kids. God finds a way. God gives us hope in dark times. God's will always come through. And he will find a way to make it come through. Even with human limitations, he can make it possible. Looking at verses 4 and 5. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine or strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So how many of us remember the Nazarite vow? Reading this, I did not, so I had to go find what it was talking about. Look at Numbers chapter 6. Numbers chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar of strong drink, neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk. All the days of the vow of his separation there shall no razor come upon his head, until the days be fulfilled in the which he separated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. All the days that he separated himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father, or for his mother, or for his brother, or for his sister, when they die, because the consecration of his God is upon his head. All the days of his separation he is holy unto the Lord. So this instruction that the angel of the Lord gives to Manoah's wife, Samson, as it turns out, won't make that Nazarite vow himself. God makes it for him in the womb. He will be a Nazarite from the womb. He will be holy and sanctified toward God. That's why the hair. When you think of Samson, you think the hair. That's why. It's not that the hair is where his power comes from. It's not the hair is magic, to use a terrible word, but it's because of the vow and the instruction that the angel of the Lord makes. And when we get to the end, not to trample on anybody else's lesson in the coming weeks, but he loses his hair. Is that why he loses his power? In part, just when you think of the story, but the hair has nothing to do with it other than the Nazirite vow. So shaving the head and everything that comes later in Samson's life. Samson's a mixed bag of unmarked potential. He does great things for God, but how much greater things could he have done had he himself not fallen into sin? But that's for later chapters. Verses 6 and 7. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible, or another translation would be very awesome. Awesome, I think, is the better word here. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told me his name. But he said unto me, behold, thou shalt conceive, and bear a son, and now drink no wine, nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. So here's just a retelling. She's telling someone else, she's telling her husband what the angel of the Lord said to her was going to happen. What lesson can we take of that? How do we hear things from God? By being around fellow Christians teaching us? By coming to assembly and learning and opening the Word and studying it? But do we take the words of God and tell others? Do we tell our spouses? Do we tell our friends, family? You know, as simple as this is, it's not taking anything out of the story or out of context. She's simply telling her husband, hey, this is what I was told. I saw an angel of God. She's excited. Are we not excited knowing that nowadays we have full access to the full word and revelation of God? Take that to others. That's our job. We can't hoard it to ourselves. Because then, are we not responsible for lost souls that we meet and say nothing to? Verse 8 through 11. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come unto us again, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And God hearkened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah her husband was not with her. And the woman made haste and ran, and showed her husband, and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me, that came unto me the other day. So Manoah himself, depending on how you interpret that verse, it's kind of like he doesn't fully believe his wife, or does he? He's smart enough to go to who? He goes to God. When we're questioning things, go to God. Go to his word, pray, ask him for knowledge, ask him for wisdom, and he'll provide. Manoah is saying, you sent this man to talk to my wife and to tell her that we're about to conceive a son. Please come and tell me again. He's asking for that confirmation. And God, hearing that prayer, verse 9, he sent the man of God again. Of course, again, Manoah wasn't there, but what does she do? She runs to her husband and says, come, the man's here. Let's hear what he has to say. 12 to 16. Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? Manoah's asking this. See, he doesn't disregard the fact at all that they're going to have a child. He accepts that almost immediately. But now the question is, all right, man of God, we're having this child. How are we intended to raise this child? What would you have us do with this child? Because he knows this is going to be a miraculous birth, because his wife can't have kids. So this must be something special from God. What are we as parents supposed to do? Do we as parents ask God how to take care of our kids? How we're supposed to raise our kids? He gives us the answer. all over the place in his word. Raise your children in the knowledge and admonition of the Lord. Just like Manoah and his wife, she had special things that she couldn't do, couldn't eat. Part of the old law, of course. But it's all for God. Our lives are supposed to be for God. Remember, he doesn't need our help. He needs our obedience, our faithfulness. And as humans, we need to ask for that guidance. Ask for that godliness. Ask what we're supposed to do with our kids. And it's hard sometimes. We raise them as best we can, especially in the Word. As they grow, we're individuals. It's up to us, it's up to them when they become of age, with all the lessons that we hopefully have taught them properly throughout their childhood. Are they going to continue and live it? Or are they going to fall away and make poor decisions? That's their individual responsibility. But as parents, hopefully we've got that relationship with our children. I hope I do with mine as they grow, that by the time they're able to make those decisions or have questions, they'll come to us not only as, the human physical parents, but they themselves will go to God and ask those questions. Spend time in the Word, learning the answers to those questions. And if our children decide to make poor decisions, then let it be up to us to follow God's example, have our arms wide open to welcome them back, to help them correct their mistakes. And sometimes their mistakes are reflections of our mistakes. We're all flawed individuals. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. Maybe mistakes were made when we were raised. Maybe we're going to make mistakes raising children. But there's always a way to fix it. There's always a way to get back to God. And that's why he is everlastingly patient. Verse 17 to 21. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Why seek thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? That word secret there, at least in my Bible, has a side note, wondrous, or wonderful. Who do we know whose name is wonderful? This kind of made me laugh a little bit because what's our study on Wednesday night? The many names of Jesus. One of his names is wonderful. So is this just a man of God? Is this just an angel or messenger of God? And how many other places throughout the Old Testament do we see that phrase, the angel of the Lord? The angel of the Lord is usually the Lord himself. And Manoah's about to realize that. So again, what did I say? No matter where you look in the Bible, no matter what story you're going through, it's going to point to Jesus or God one way or the other. And right there it is. So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it upon a rock unto the Lord. And the angel did wonderful things. And Manoah and his wife looked on. There's one thing I wanted to, verse 15. Let's look at that again. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. The angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread, and if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. So without flat out saying so, the angel of the Lord is trying to get the point across that he is the angel of the Lord as we know. He's Jesus, he's God himself. I'm not going to eat this offering, but if you're going to make an offering, honor God. Honor God with your offering. Verse 19, So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it unto the rock, unto the Lord. And the angel did wonderful things, and Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. So it wasn't a physical person that Manoah was talking to. It was Jesus. It was God himself. And as he ascended in that flame, Manoah realized who he had been talking to. So we come to verse 22. And Manoah said unto his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. Turn, if you would, to Exodus chapter 33. Exodus chapter 33, starting in verse 18. Moses talking to God. And he said, I beseech thee, show me thy glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. And he said, thou canst not see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. So again, Manoah and his wife knew a little bit of history. They knew that if you looked upon God, you were going to die, because you can't see God's face and live. But his wife, as most wives do, make a better point to correct the husband. She has a realization. In verse 23, but his wife said unto him, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meat offering at our hands, neither would he have showed us all these things, nor would at this time have told us such things as these. So the angel of the Lord, Jesus, God himself, had no intention of killing him. His intention was to deliver this message of a miraculous birth. Because there's one part that I missed, but I missed it intentionally. And I got to find what verse it's back in. Verse 5, the end of verse 5. And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So again, not wanting to trample on the other chapters or other lessons, but that's an important line there. Samson himself does not deliver them from the Philistines. He begins to. But see, the whole idea of this miraculous birth of Samson and Samson's story as a whole is the story of the Bible as a whole. It's a story of hope. No matter what's going on, no matter how deep in sin we are, how lost we are as individuals or as humanity as a collective, there's always that sliver of hope. God provides us a way out. All he wants us to do is find it, obey it, live it, and teach it to others so that they can find a way out too. Samson was that glimmer of hope to Israel. Again, Samson being human, he was going to make mistakes. But the realization in verse 23, he's thinking back to the old ways. We've just seen God himself, we're going to die. No, they were going to die, in time as humans. But it was a realization that the angel of the Lord was a messenger providing hope to them. Saying, you're going to have a child. These are the instructions you have to keep this child with the Nazirite vow, because he's going to be your hope to begin that process of getting away of the control of the Philistines. Verse 24, and the woman bare a son and called his name Samson, and the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. The Spirit of the Lord began to move him. So again, look back to the common thinking. Just listing out Bible characters, Bible stories. You think Samson, you think great strength, you think hair. Was he this big, muscly guy that was super strong? Doesn't necessarily say. Doesn't necessarily have to be the case. That's why others around him wondered how he was so strong. Because he looked just, normal size, normal strength as a human to them. Was the power in the hair? No. The power was provided to him by who? God provides the power. God provides the hope and the strength to Samson and his family that they're going to be out of Philistine control. Just like God provides us with that hope, that cleansing of our sins, so long as we remain faithful and obedient once we become a child of God. So some other questions to look at. How does the miraculous announcement of Samson's birth reflect God's ability to bring hope in desperate situations? The simple fact that it's happening in the first place. Just like all those other stories of miraculous births, God had a plan to bring Christ into this world. And all these other things had to happen. All the lineage had to take place and be there for God's will to happen. And knowing that humanity wasn't going to be able to do that on its own, God steps in where God deems necessary to step in and make things happen so that his will for our rescue can take place. What responsibilities did Manoah and his wife have in raising Samson? And how can parents today guide children in God's purpose? That's one of the hardest questions of this story. Not the first part. I mean, the instructions given to them about Samson was basically what we read back in Numbers. Just follow the Nazirite vow. But she had that part to follow for her son and how to raise them as parents. As parents today, we've got this entire book that we have to follow. No, we're not under the old law. We're not under all those offerings and mandates and living and keeping the Sabbath. But there's still so much that we need to know, need to learn as parents. If there's any questions, there's all kinds of books, thousands upon thousands of books out there in self-help and this is how I raised my kids, or this is how you should raise your kids. No. Just stick with the book. God tells us what to do with our children. He tells us what to do ourselves. That's why he sent Christ in the first place, so that we would have that perfect, sinless example. Even as a child, 12 years old, he's already in the temple teaching. So even at a young age, we've got the Bible stories. We've got access to all of that. We can teach our children the Bible stories. We can teach our children the Bible songs. And then eventually, they're going to ask the question, why? But not just that, childish why cycle that Oliver's definitely stuck in right now, but the true question, why? Why are you teaching me all these Bible stories? Why do we go to church every Sunday morning and night? Why do we go to Bible study on Wednesday? When they start asking those whys, right there, it's time. Start teaching them right then so that they've got a chance to grow. And it's not just children. It's others we meet. If they're outside of Christ, what happens when they finally do become baptized and become a child of God? Right there's that word, a child of God. You start that Christian journey. You start with the small stuff. You start learning the story of Jesus, learning his teachings. Then you get into the book of Romans, book of Hebrews, book of Revelation. You start getting into the hard stuff later. But the important stuff to be saved or to have that chance of being saved, it's all plain and simple if we just take time to look at it and study it. God doesn't make it hard. We make it hard on ourselves because we're too attracted to this world. We're too attracted to sinful things, sinful pleasures. We're too attracted to other gods. We're too attracted to ourselves. We're too selfish to focus on the plan that God had for us. Because just like the story of Abraham, he flat out laughed. He had disbelief in his heart. He took it upon himself to help God. So even powerful, wonderful Bible characters, they've all got their flaws, and we're going to have our flaws. Can we overcome them? And even in Samson's story, we'll find out in a couple weeks, he overcomes his flaws. How can we trust God's timing and plans when we face seemingly hopeless circumstances? So with all these questions, if you look at chapter 13, verse 1, there's so much packed into that verse, because even though, we looking at it from the future standpoint, I think Israel's just stuck. It's just another Israel story. They messed up. God's trying to judge them. But for the Israelites living in it, living in that time, they were without hope. They were stuck under this, control. They were supposed to be God's chosen people, and they forget it every time. But again, it's God's time, God's will. God's going to take care of it. There's always that, the word remnant appears over and over again in the Old Testament. Even the flood. He wiped out all of humanity except what? That faithful remnant that received grace in the eyes of God, Noah and his family. So there's always going to be that remnant that's going to be able to find a way to get out of that situation. But not on their own, not of their own power. It's of God's power, God's providence. This child, Samson, that they were going to be given, was God's providence to get them through. So what we need to remember about the miraculous birth of Samson is that God's always in control. We need to believe what he says, what he will do, and obey it. That's why, sometimes people approach the Bible, it's if they're willing to approach it at all, which is getting harder and harder. But if we can get somebody to approach the Bible, they'll look at it and think, why is it so hard, or why is it so much history, or why did God do this, why did God do that, or what's his true plan? It is hard to sift through that and to get out of that. You got to filter all that stuff aside and focus on, it's funny about Revelation. As difficult as that book is, it can be simplified in one phrase. We, meaning Christians, children of God, Jesus, we win. The entire book of the Bible, the entire book of Revelation can be summed up in that fact: we win. We will win as Christians. All we've got to do is find a way within ourselves to put aside those distractions, to overcome our own faults, to find God's will for us. And even that's easy. He tells you. The life of a Christian is absolutely not easy because of those temptations to sin, because of other people that will persecute us for what we believe in. But we've still got to hold on to that. That was that glimmer of hope for Israel. Israel could hold on to Samson, hold on to the strength of Samson, hold on to all the other miracles that God provided them. And then remember that God provided the ultimate miracle through Jesus. We follow Jesus' example. We obey him, live faithfully, bring others to him. Then everything else doesn't matter. It becomes a struggle to stay away from everything else. But God's always there with open arms to guide us through those struggles and to welcome us back if and ever we fall away. With that warning, though, the time will run out. The judgment trumpet sound will come, and if we pass away before then and we're not ready, well, it's too late. But he gives us a day at a time, a day's opportunity to make ourselves right with God. So remember that story of Samson and think about that today and as you go on. Are you following God's will? Are you realizing God's time? Are you realizing the miraculous wonder that he provided you to have that chance of everlasting life in heaven? So that's all I've got for you. Thank you.